Hey there, how's it going? Crypto Sage here, bringing you another Ampleforth video. The intention of this video is to bring a realistic perspective on Ampleforth. Not too pessimistic, not too optimistic, but something realistic. And to have logic to explain why it's realistic versus the pessimists and the optimists. I'm going to go through some pros of Ampleforth and some of the cons of Ampleforth, and I'm going to end the video with some TA. So the first thing I want to start with is there is a general sense of pessimism in Ampleforth right now, and I want to show that this is all part of the plan. So here I have the Ampleforth.org economics pulled up. This is under their Learn system. I highly recommend going through all of their learning, the white book, the red book, and all of the documents they put out there. It's worth learning. It's really cool stuff. But the first thing I want to focus on is the statements that they have here. I find this really interesting, especially in the atmosphere we're in now. So this is written by the Ampleforth team before any of us really got into investing into it. So early on, while Ample's market cap is small, wallet balances will be volatile. Dynamic periods will occur frequently as a system snaps from one supply equilibrium to the next, reflecting the rapid changes in demand for Ample. In this period of its life cycle, Ample benefits from use as a diversifying asset to be held in investment portfolios and from use as a decentralized collateral asset. One thing I would add is, as a trader, you gotta love volatility. It's something that you can have big gains off of. So if you're looking for a high risk, high reward trade, Ample can provide that. And I really don't recommend getting into a high risk, high reward trade without doing your research first and understanding how to trade the coin, because you're gonna lose. And so all these people getting burned right now, the information was out there. It was right on the website. It warned of this exact atmosphere, but people didn't heed the warning, or they didn't read it in the first place and jumped into a high risk, high reward coin without understanding the risk, and now they're upset that they lost big, when in reality it was all their fault because the information was out there. The next thing I want to show can be found on Ampleforth.org under their economics section of learning. It's under section 5. It's called Tomorrow Ample Can Be a Better Bitcoin. Now listen to this. The Ample protocol automatically translates price volatility into supply volatility. Note, translates. But it is profit-seeking traders acting on incentives who propagate these supply changes back into price. In other words, price informs supply algorithmically, while supply informs price behaviorally in a cycle. This cycle takes the form of a step function-like movement pattern that alternates between static periods where price and supply are in equilibrium and dynamic periods where the market searches for its next equilibrium. Two things to pull out of this. The first is in the first line. The Ample protocol, let's just call it the rebase. The rebase automatically translate price volatility into supply volatility. What this is saying is the rebase is not creating or taking away value. It's translating price value into market cap value. Meaning, if your logic chains are saying, I'm going to gain or lose something via the rebase, your logic is wrong. The rebase does not give or take, it translates. That is an important distinction to know. The second portion is this step function-like movement pattern. Let's go ahead and pull it up. All right, this is the predicted output of this step movement pattern that they talk about. And we can see here that it hits equilibrium, and then there's a supply increase, so the price increases. The rebase pushes the price down, and we hit equilibrium again. And then the next scenario is right here where the supply drops, so the price drops, rebase pushes it back up. Now what to take into note is the less market cap we have, the bigger these bubbles will be, and the shorter these equilibrium states will be. The more market cap we have, the smaller the bubbles will be, and the longer time frame the equilibrium will be. You kind of have to think about Ampleforth in two phases. Its beginning phase, where its use case is to avoid systemic risk, and to make a lot of money due to the volatility, versus its later use case, which is it's a stable coin at that point. Ampleforth is not currently a stable coin. It will develop into that. Next, we're looking at a paragraph in their white paper that I feel like every trader of Ampleforth needs to read. We then suggest that the incentives introduced by Ampleforth's protocol's design cannot be realized with existing price-based strategies, and instead call for the creation of new trading strategies that take an additional supply informational signal into consideration. For this reason, we expect that Amples will produce a distinct volatility fingerprint, which goes back to that step change volatility signature. So what this is saying is, don't just use your price chart. It's written right in the white paper. Don't use your price chart. And if that wasn't enough, if you jump into the conclusion, it says basically the same thing again. By our analysis above, we conclude that the market dynamics of Amples cannot be determined by price alone and require the consideration of supply in addition to price. As a result, the volatility fingerprint of Amples will be distinct from current generation synthetic commodities. Again, the people who are trading just based on price, don't. You got to use the market cap chart as well. I'll go ahead and put that link in the description. It was written right in the white paper. Again, a lot of people who are getting burned by Ample right now, it's not because Ample isn't working. It's because they didn't understand Ample going into it. They were just using old price-based strategies, which cannot work in Ample because the price is manipulated by the rebase. So, going back to the intro to this video, I told you that I would talk to you about a realistic expectation of Ampleforth's value. The first thing I want to talk about is the pessimists are wrong. The people who are coming out and saying, it's a garbage coin, it's get out of it, abandon ship, it's just bad, it doesn't work, all that nonsense, they're wrong. The reason why is that Ampleforth is leading, in fact it created this race, but it's leading the race in elastic supply. Elastic supply is incredibly valuable to the decentralized finance space because it is a technology-based stablecoin as opposed to only having stablecoins in baskets. These stablecoins in baskets like USDC, USDT, Tether, DAI, these baskets are all tied to the old centralized system. It's kind of like an umbilical cord to the centralized system that if the dollar collapsed, your stablecoins collapse. So we need something in the space that is going to be stable, but stable based on technology. And the rebase has succeeded at that. The rebase is succeeding. The technology is working. And there are other coins copying Ampleforth. It is going to have it's ushering in a new generation of coin called elastic supply coins that are going to compete to be that stable coin in the future. And we need that stable coin in the future. It's an absolute need. So someone's going to have to win that. And currently, Ampleforth is winning that race by a wide margin. And as long as they're winning that race, there's going to be a lot of value in Ampleforth. Now, keep in mind that there may be an elastic coin that comes out that does compete really well with Ampleforth. Maybe something would come out on the Monero blockchain that was a completely decentralized, completely private Ampleforth with elastic supply. That would be really cool. There's other ideas, there's an Ampleforth with no negative rebase, which personally I don't get. It defeats the purpose. There's also RMPL, which is just a sketchy clone of Ampleforth. So basically the clones are coming out, but currently Ample is winning by a large margin. Not only is Ample currently winning the race, Ample is set up to continue winning the race. The way they distributed their initial money gave them a lot of extra gas to push towards development. And that's one of their give and take things, right? Like, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to their distribution. Their distribution was not universally loved, and I could understand why. A lot of the money was going to investors and the team. and not enough to the ecosystem or the treasury. I digress. But the way they distributed the money, they do have enough money in the bank to incentivize, to make these pushes. And we'll jump back to this when I come to the negatives of Ampleforth. Okay, now I'm going to bring the discussion away from the pessimists and bring it to the optimists. Now, what keeps this from being the God coin, the best coin ever made, the one that's going to change the whole world? Well, it really comes down to the fact it's not decentralized and the fact that they distributed their money in a very centralized way. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give two perspectives on both of these. The first was that the Ampleforth team said that they could no longer freeze money, and then they proceeded to freeze a hacker's money. So there was some dishonesty there, or some miscommunication, and it showed a lot of people that they weren't as decentralized as they were saying, which concerned a whole bunch of people, and rightfully so. I believe this is in response to that movement, but they've released a governance plan where it's showing that they're taking steps to become more decentralized. So, are they perfect with the decentralization? No. Are they moving towards being more decentralized? Yes. And also keep in mind that value isn't always associated with decentralization. There can be something that is centralized that still holds good value, or is, has potential for an increase in value. But it was a dent to their reputation. But it looks like there's plans in motion to go ahead and make that area a little bit better. The second thing that is a negative on Ampleforth is the way they distributed their initial funds. This was a 50 million ample supply of funds, 25% of which was distributed to the team and advisors, 10% was distributed via an IEO, some of which was private, some of which was public, 18.5% distributed to their seed investors, and 3.3% distributed to their Series A investors. Now, these have pros and cons. Like, giving 25% to the team and advisors is a lot, without a doubt, but that gives them money to hire people, to do a whole bunch of things. It could be seen as a growth-based move, as long as they're just not selling it, as long as they're not doing mass sells that drop the price. The same thing could be said for the investor teams. They really help to get off the ground, but if they're just dumping on us, it could be seen as a negative. 20% was placed into the treasury, and 23.2% was placed into the ecosystem. The treasury and the ecosystem are both very growth-based focuses. They help Ample grow as a community. It can be very strategic. Things like the geyser, for example, would come from the treasury. And so they're just, as long as the money's used well, this could be good. Having 25% with the team and advisors could be a good thing if they're using that money for growth and not to cash out. So it's a balancing act. We have to trust this team to not dump on us. And going back, I wish there was more placed into the ecosystem and treasury versus the team and advisors. So it really comes down to how much we trust them to not dump on us. And there has been some dumping on us, which is, again, going back to the negatives. So the distribution, while it is seen as very pessimistically, it's seen as not good. It's dynamic. There are good things about it. There are negative things about it. But it's one of the things you need to know before you're investing in the token. I hope going over these pros and cons has helped you kind of understand Ampleforth better as a currency, and will help you trade it better. I wanted to end the video with a little bit of TA. I want to start out this TA by kind of a broader look. And as a reminder, the way I do technical analysis is black is a monthly trend line, resistance or support, purple is weekly, and red is daily. The biggest pattern we see here is this weekly downward trend, which leads into a daily downward trend. And just taking a look at the whole broad picture here, it really feels like an accumulation zone to me. when we zoom into this daily downward trend, you can see that multiple times the price has attempted to come down to test this 67 million support line and has never reached it. It got closer here, and then down here it got higher, setting a new higher low, which is very bullish from my perspective. And overall, I am bullish right now. If we go ahead and take a look at the Ampleforth dashboard, we can see that we've been dropping like crazy. We had a little bump and we dropped like crazy. Now we're flattening out here at the bottom. The price is going up into its range. When we flatten out, the rebase now is not being pushed down anymore, so it naturally takes us into that dollar range, the 2019 dollar range. So things are looking really good. This in particular is looking like a really good buy opportunity to me, the supply. And the technical analysis here is supporting that theory, so I am bullish. Things to take into consideration is if we do see some downward movement and our support breaks at the 70 million and 67 million and we collapse, there's really nothing holding us until we hit 49 million. It's a big drop. So this would be an area to watch. It's a dangerous area if this breaks, but I don't think it's going to break. This is not financial advice. I'm just a dude who likes talking about crypto. I can't see the future. I probably should have mentioned this beforehand, but here we are. So what happens after it breaks this we'll have to see here, because coming up here we could bounce off, do maybe a double bounce, we could break through, confirm it as support, and continue on. Big move though is going to be when this weekly trend line breaks. I think we're going to have some collection of things to do here before we move on out here. And from there, the sky's really the limit. We do have some resistance above us, but it's breakable is how I'll put that, and we can move upward from there. So yeah, long-term bullish on Ampleforth. This is actually looking like a pretty good spot to buy. I am going to set up a purchase here pretty soon. That's just me. I will go ahead and mark down where I buy and where I sell, and whether it's successful or a failure, I'll go ahead and let you guys know. Please go ahead and leave a comment, leave a like, talk to me. I'd like to start some discussion. What are your thoughts on Ampleforth? Am I wrong about anything? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's start a discussion here. All right, guys, appreciate you watching the video, and I hope you have a good one. Later.